Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. I was just reading my dictionary here. Today, I want to talk to you about two of the most misunderstood words in the English language. What esoteric, abstruse, cryptic lexemes am I going to discuss? Okay, if you're watching this video, I'm like 99% sure you've heard of and or used these words before. If not regularly, like all the time, then at least regularly in some context, probably a classroom context. But as an instructor, as I've actually gotten drafts and revisions from students over the years, I sometimes come to find out that students don't actually know what those words mean. And that's not necessarily on them. That's on me, the teacher, to explain what do I mean when I say draft and what do I mean when I say revision. So here we are. But first, let's back up a bit. Why do I, or any other writing or media teacher for that matter, why do I assign drafts and revisions? Well, there's two reasons. One, writing or composing or what have you, is a process, which is just a shorthand way to say that sometimes it takes doing it to figure out how to do it. You get all your ideas out first, and then you try to figure out if those ideas are actually doing what it is you want them to do. The second reason that I assign drafts and revisions is because figuring out if your writing or other media project is actually doing what you think it's doing or what you want it to do is actually really, really difficult. And the easiest way to figure that out is to have someone else look at it, preferably someone who knows a lot about the type of thing you're trying to create. In the classroom context, that's me, it's me. So I assign drafts and revisions because no one ever really nails it on the first draft, and because feedback is crucial for learning how to make your writing or media project better. And one more, it's a way for me to check and make sure you've got the actual concepts you're writing about correct, to make sure that they align with whatever course content I'm trying to teach you. So like if I ask you to write a paper about dinosaurs and you write a draft, and as I read it, I can tell that you don't know what a dinosaur is, then like the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you to revisit all the course material on dinosaurs so that you can learn what a dinosaur is. Then you can focus on writing about dinosaurs. So drafts also help me, and of course other teachers, check your understanding of course concepts and course correct if need be. So then what is a draft? What is revision? Let's start with draft. Typically in my classes, and your mileage may vary with other instructors, but again, in my classes, when I say draft, I basically want you to pour all of your energy into the project just like you're producing the finished version. Like, pretend there are no revisions. I want the draft to be complete and I want it to be quality work. So if I say I want a 1,000-word grant proposal or a 5-minute video analysis, then I expect 1,000 words, not 500 or even 900. I expect a 5-minute video, not a 2.5-minute video, and probably not a 10-minute video either. I've got a ton of these to grade. And aside from meeting the absolute base requirements for length or time, I expect it to actually do what the assignment asks it to do. And I expect it to be your best effort. Why? Well, so that I can help you make it even better through revision. That's what classes are all about, learning to get better at doing something, not just practicing something you're already good at. Now, what is a revision? Honestly, that's going to depend on the feedback you get from your instructor. Typically, revise will mean that you need to hand in something very different from what you handed in with your first draft. When I ask for revisions in my class, I like to use this revision rubric so that you know exactly what I mean when I say revise. Okay, so here is the rubric that I give to students when I say, when I assign revisions, that basically explains what I mean when I say revise. Um, there are, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories, and 4 out of these 6 categories mean pretty big changes to a piece. Let's start right over here at the top with the most drastic piece of feedback, which is complete rewrite. Complete rewrite means that you need to completely rewrite the project starting from scratch, and this is when your project is not doing what the assignment is asking you to do. Something about the way you've approached the project is not what the instructor, me in this case, has asked you to do, and I want you to try again. And that means, again, starting from scratch. There may be some aspect of the way you've approached it that you can keep from this version to the next version that you're producing, but I would indicate that in the feedback. But it means you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, and I need you to do the thing that I'm asking you to do. So again, that means start from scratch. Like, you should probably just not even reopen the old document. It's like that level of, you need to be doing something else. You need to add something, not add something, you need to do something different. Okay, the next one is a major rewrite. This is different than complete rewrite because complete rewrite is basically only for if you're not doing what the assignment is asking you to do. You can be doing what the assignment is asking you to do or trying to do what the assignment is asking you to do, but I can still, need to say, you've got the basic idea, but there are big issues here. And so you need to, again, still turn in something drastically different from what you turned in the first time or the previous time. But it doesn't, but you're sort of on the right track, but it still needs to be very different, is what I'm trying to say. Again, you may be able to keep your core topic or idea, but there are major issues that need to be resolved in the next draft. And that can be things like some things that you're saying are not very clear. So you need to work on either explaining things more or trying to make the language clearer in some way. You might be using course concepts incorrectly. You might, probably what is the case is that you may need to add more detail or support to an argument that you're making, more examples. You might need to talk through examples that you're giving even more. And whatever the issues are, your instructor will let you know what those are in the feedback. But again, major rewrite means that your project should look very different from what you turned in previously. It's possibly also a good idea to, start from scratch. Maybe not, but the next version should look very different from the one you handed in to me previously. The next one is major reorganization. And this means you need to reorganize large portions or possibly all of your project. And this might mean, if you're working in a text document, moving around an entire section or paragraph. If you are creating a video, this might mean, okay, I need to cut this section of 2 minutes and move it to the beginning or to the end or what have you. But that's what major reorganization means, is that you have started in one place and I'm reading through or watching or what have you, and I get confused. And then you get to what I'm confused about later on. And so that means, oh, no, let's put this stuff first. So you need to move things around. And again, your project will look very different than it did the first time. A minor reorganization still has to do with reorganization, but it's usually, in this case, at the level of individual paragraphs or smaller segments. So like a paragraph may need to be reworked where you have some ideas at the end, they need to come up front, or vice versa. And this might apply to several paragraphs, like your overall organization may be fine, like the big picture. You start out, okay, this, then this, then this, then this. The paragraphs themselves are okay, but within each paragraph, things need to be moved around. And again, that might be one paragraph, it might be several paragraphs. Or conversely, you might just need to move like one paragraph around in the project as opposed to sort of shuffling many things around. A stylistic rewrite means that your project might not look as drastically different as for a major rewrite or a major reorganization or a complete rewrite. But in terms of the words you're using, it might still actually look really different. The bones, the structure may be okay, but in terms of and the structure may be okay. Your claims The claims you're making are well supported, things like that, but the sort of words you're using, the sentence patterns you're using need work. You may be using inappropriate passive or active voice. You may be using too much of one or the other. You may be using inappropriate jargon. You might not be explaining jargon where you should be explaining it. You might have imprecise or incorrect word choice. You might be dealing with grammatical issues or sentence fragments. In a visual-based project, you might need to do a small amount of work on your visual design. And again, as with the other sections of the rubric, your instructor will give you more specific feedback on what exactly that means and what you need to do for your project, but those may be an issue. And then in terms of minor editing, you're almost there is what this one means. Your project is pretty good. There's not a lot of places I can push you further in terms of the project. And it mostly needs minor editing. So that might be spelling, grammar, punctuation, visual design, what have you, technical issues in terms of an audio project, maybe the audio quality jumps in a particular place, or it's the volume jumps in this one small section and it's suddenly really loud, and I'm like, no, you need to make that quieter, whatever. Those are minor editing issues. You are typically not going to get this in the very beginning, in the first draft in my class, because I assign multiple drafts of most of my projects. You are probably not going to get minor editing the first time you submit a draft. It's going to be one of these other ones, and most likely major rewrite or major reorganization, or potentially a complete rewrite. And that's just because, as I said earlier, no one gets it right on the first time. Even if your project is pretty good and you've got some great ideas, again, if you're at the point where I'm like, you're doing really well, I want to challenge you to think about things in a slightly different way. I want to push your thinking even further. I'm not going to give you a minor edit because I'm going to be giving you something more along the lines of a major rewrite. And that I might specify in the feedback. You don't need to rewrite everything. You just take this section and add more, push it further, that kind of thing. So this is what I use. And the big idea is that I'm gonna like circle one, maybe two of these. And then I will give you specifics, a couple of tasks in terms of what I want you to tackle for next time. And it's not going to be every single thing that is going on with your project, because you can't possibly address every single thing in a single rewrite. It's not good for learning, first of all. And second of all, especially if you have one of these bigger issues, if you're totally rewriting something, I can't tell you if you're going to have passive voice in the next one. So I can't tell you need to address passive voice. So again, I'll indicate which sort of, not really level, I don't like calling it a level because that assumes that this is linear when it's kind of not. But I'll indicate which level, for lack of a better word, you are at, and then I will give you specifically, okay, here are the issues, here are the biggest issues with your paper, and here's how I want you to address those. All right, Screencastify is telling me I need to wrap it up. This is what I use for my classes, and hopefully this will help make revising, if not an easier task, then a clearer task. So, all right. Typically, you're going to fall into at least one of these categories. You might get two, like you might have some minor reorganization and some minor stylistic issues, but because of the way writing or composing any media works, you're most likely going to be asked to focus on one of these types of rewrites at a time. Because if you did the assignment wrong, it doesn't matter if you're using too much passive voice. You're going to throw out all that passive voice anyway, so it's pointless to work at it at this stage. And that's why I personally often assign more than one draft and thus more than one revision in my classes. Because once you've dealt with one set of issues, I can start looking at the next set of issues. And this is true even if you hand me something that's like super good in the first draft. Because if you hand me something that's super good already, the feedback I give you will be designed to push you even further than where you already are. Because again, class is about learning, not doing something you already know how to do. So if I need to challenge you, I'm going to take this opportunity to challenge you. Don't use that as an excuse to submit subpar work though. And usually, even if you think you're pretty good, there is still something you can learn. Okay, so the moral of the story, typically when I say revision, I don't mean resubmit the same thing but with 1 or 2 minor things changed. I mean, you're going to need to make some major changes most likely. If you're at the second draft stage, you might need to make only a few minor changes, and that'll be great, but probably not on the first try. That being said, if you put in your best effort every time, then I can do my job well, which is to help make you even better at writing.